Hello students, welcome back to our video. So in the last video we discussed about the how to pass the closing entries. Now let's see how to make the entries, how to pass the adjustment entries. What is adjustment entries? So at the end of every accounting year, entries are to be passed for certain adjustments so that the true performance and the true financial positions of the business can be known. For example, closing stock, unpaid expenses, incomes not received, depreciation, etc. A detailed explanation of such adjustment entries is given in the chapter on final accounts. So in short, we can say that adjustment entries. So at the end of the every accounting year, entries are to be passed for certain adjustments, such as like closing stock, then expenses, unpaid expenses, income which is not received, then depreciation. So these are known as the adjustment entries, which is passed at the end of the every accounting year to know the true performance and the true financial positions of the business. For example, at the end of the accounting year, there is closing stock of rupees 20,000, salary of rupees 5,000 which is unpaid, salary which is not paid yet. So salary of rupees 5,000 is unpaid, rupees 400 is accrued. Accrued means not received, not paid. Interest is not paid. Accrued means not paid for interest, and the depreciation of rupees 500 on machinery is to be written off. So for this you have to pass the journal entries. So how would you pass it? So first of all, make the format of journal entries. That would be the date, particulars, LF number column, debit column, and the credit column. So first of all, pass the journal entry for the closing stock adjustment, closing stock at the end of the year. So write the date, that is December 31st. Closing stock account would be debited to trading account. You all know that closing stock, closing entries are transferred to trading account. That's why closing stock account would be debited to trading account. Amount would be 20,000. Then you have to pass the journal entry for salary which is unpaid. So write the date 31st December. So in the though it is not paid yet, but at the end of the year you have to pay. So it is considered as expenses only. So salary account would be debited to unpaid salary account. Unpaid salary account. In the future it is going to be paid. That's why you have to write the unpaid salary account would be credited with the amount of 5,000 in debit column and 5,000 in credit column. Narration would be being adjustment entry for unpaid salary of rupees 5,000. Why we debited salary account? Because it is going to be paid in the future. So it would be considered as expenses for the business. So you all know that expenses are always debited and incomes are always credited. So salary is a type of expense. So salary account would be debited. It is not paid yet. Therefore you have to write to unpaid salary account would be credited with the amount of 5,000. Then next is 400 is accrued for interest. That means interest is not paid yet. Accrued means not paid yet. So write the date, that is 31st December. Interest accrued account would be debited because interest is not paid yet. Therefore interest accrued account would be debited to interest account. To interest account. This is the adjustment entry, okay, which is passed at the end of the year. So interest accrued account would be debited to interest account because it is not paid yet, with the amount of 400 in the debit column and 400 in the credit column. And the last thing that is given, that depreciation of rupees 500 on machinery is to be written off. So you all know that you all know the meaning of depreciation. So depreciation, there was depreciation of rupees 500 on machinery is to be written off. Written off means has to be deducted. So for this, how would you pass the entry? So first of all, write the date, that is 31st December. Depreciation. Depreciation is a type of expense for the business. Therefore, depreciation account would be debited. Depreciation is provided on machinery. So, to machinery account would be credited with the amount of 500 in the debit column and 500 in the credit column. Narration would be being depreciation of rupees 500 on machinery written off. So, we have passed all the adjustment entries. So at the end, you all know total the debit column and total the credit column. Remember that both the column debit should always be equal to the credit and credit should always be equal to the debit. And don't forget to total it at the end, because if you do not total it, you will not get the full marks. Therefore, don't forget to total it at the end of the journal entries. Got it? So this was the note on adjustment entry. You guys would be studying in detail explanation in the chapter of final accounts, which is the last chapter of. So you would be studying this detailing in the final accounts. Now let us look at the next point, that is rectification of errors. What is rectification of errors? Entries passed to rectify the errors committed while recording economic transactions are called as rectification of errors. Many transactions take place in a business during an accounting year and are recorded in the books of accounts. So there are chances of errors being committed while making such records. So you all know that in a business, in 1 year, there are many transactions taking place, and all the transactions are recorded in the books of accounts. But there are chances of errors to be made. So when the errors are made and when there is errors are rectified, means errors that has already taken place, now we have to rectify the errors. Means we have to correct that errors. So that is known as correcting of errors, is known as the rectification of errors. For certain types of errors, journal entries are to be passed for rectification, and such entries for the rectification of error are recorded in the journal proper. So entries are needed to be passed for the rectification of each error in the journal proper. And again, detailed explanation would be detailed explanation for the rectification of error. Again, you guys would be studying in the chapter of errors and rectification. So this is just the note. So now let us look at with the example for how to pass the entries for the rectification of error. So here first A is given, that is rupees 500 was paid for salary is debited to office expenses account. The rectification entry for this error will be passed as under. So what is the question? What is the error here? That rupees 500 which was paid for the salary. Rupees 500 was paid for the salary is debited to office expense account instead of salary account. So this is the error, that salary is debited to office expenses account instead of salary account. So this error has to be rectified, or we can say corrected. So how would you pass the entry for this rectification? First of all, you have to pass the error entry. So what is salary is already paid. So salary is a type of expense. So salary account would be debited. But instead of salary account, it is debited to office expenses account. So to office expense account would be credited with the amount of 500. Narration would be, being rupees 500 was paid for salary is debited to office expenses account. For rectification of error, you should know the correct entry for that error. Only then and then only you can rectify the error. Okay. So now let's look at the second example, that is the purchase of machinery of rupees 2000 is recorded as purchase of goods. So what is the error? That machinery was purchased, but it is recorded as purchase of goods instead of purchase of assets. So this is the error, that is recorded as purchase of goods. So how would you pass the rectification error? So machinery account is, a machine is coming in the business. Therefore machinery account would be debited to purchase account because it is recorded as purchase of goods. That's why you have to write to purchase account with the amount of 2000. So this was the error, that it was recorded as purchase of goods instead of purchase of asset. Being narration would be, being rectification of purchase of machinery recorded in the purchase account. So this is the error. Got it? So this is how you have to pass the journal entries for the rectification of errors. Detailed explanation you guys would be studying in the chapter of errors and rectifications. So with this, now we are done with the chapter number 8, journal proper. So I want you guys to solve the exercise textbook exercise questions by yourself. It is very entry, or try to pass the journal entries in the journal proper. Okay. So and if you have any questions or any doubts, please feel free to comment below the video. So from the next video, we would be starting with the chapter number 9, that is ledger posting. Okay. So still, if you have any questions or any doubts, please feel free to comment below the video. Thank you.